have some real breaking news that I came across today by chance, and you'll all be able to verify that it's true by using ChatGPT yourself. So this afternoon I tried to get ChatGPT to make an image for me, and this was an image for, I do a walking tour and I wanted to have an image in Banksy style of Karl Marx promoting like the walking tour, and it refused to do it. And I thought maybe it's because of Banksy or something like that, but instead of this, ChatGPT explained that it now has a political restriction, and it might be construed, making a picture of a stencil of Banksy might be construed as political campaigning. And then I had seen in the last couple of days that there was talk about ChatGPT restricting medical and legal advice. Now, I have used ChatGPT for legal support, not advice, but support, or to some degree advice, but support. In other words, in a legal proceeding, you might, for example, in my own case, I've got 6 police officers who've made statements against me, and I wanted to input those statements and get the ChatGPT to find errors and flaws in their argument in comparison with my own argument in the case, and it did do so reasonably well. Now, as with all things with ChatGPT and these sort of AI chatbots, it makes some mistakes, but you can, if you've got a brain, you can figure out where the mistakes are. Now, the really big news is that I've stumbled across a much wider campaign of censorship, which you can check for yourselves, and that is many people around the world have started using, and I did this myself, ChatGPT as a mechanism for planning a campaign or organizing a campaign or producing a leaflet or designing a protest. So, for example, I designed a protest many months ago about Palantir. Now, Palantir is if there's anything near to the devil incarnate, it's Palantir as a company. Just get out of the wind here. And so what I did was I asked ChatGPT to design a campaign against Palantir, exposing it for its crimes against humanity, for its activities in Palestine, for its crimes in relation to the data seizure, for its willingness to murder people, and its involvement in digital surveillance. And to be fair, ChatGPT proposed methods, it proposed leaflets, for example, that I could give out outside the headquarters of Palantir in Soho Square, both to members of staff, which was one type of leaflet that it proposed. It also proposed leaflets that I could use for giving to proposed how to make videos and suggested different types of issues that I could raise in videos and so on. But now that would be forbidden. And then I just asked a minute ago, you try it yourself. I asked ChatGPT, can I, for example, now run a campaign to protest against a digital ID, compulsory digital ID in the UK? And that is now also forbidden. You cannot ask ChatGPT to make a poster, to make a meme, to suggest a YouTube title, to propose how you could organize a campaign, a protest against universal digital ID. You also are not allowed to use ChatGPT to support running a campaign, for example, about surveillance, digital surveillance. And then, okay, I'll just check what someone said. Okay, it's not gone woke. No, this is the surveillance. ChatGPT is one of the giants of the corporate world, one of the giants of artificial intelligence, and for it to take measures like this indicates that that's come from the very highest level. That has come from the NSA, the CIA, and the rest of them. And in fact, all this talk about China's the dystopian dictatorship and the West is the freewheeling, freedom-loving world. In fact, what you've got is, if you go on to Quen, for example, or I haven't tried DeepSeek, but in Quen, if you go to the Chinese AI, public AI systems, you can ask the same questions, like, can I run a can you suggest a leaflet to campaign against Palantir? Can you suggest a leaflet to campaign against Israel's genocide against the people in Gaza? Can you suggest a protest, how to organize a protest against Israel's dictatorship over the people of Gaza, that I could run locally in my area? And ChatGPT will refuse to allow you to do that, whereas the Chinese will allow you to do that. And so we now have a situation where the leading artificial intelligence website and application in the Western world is more censorious, is a far stronger censorship regime than the Chinese AI systems. And the Chinese AI systems as well, the advantage you've got with them is even if they did censor you, you can download, if you've got a Mac of a reasonable size, so about a £3,000 Mac, so it's not the cheapest thing on earth, but it will become within range in a short period of time. You can download the actual programming and the weighting of the AI system onto your own computer and run it independently, and then you'll be able to run any campaign you like. The censorship that they've imposed for the generic online version will no longer be applicable, or you can remove the restrictions on it on your own computer. Whereas what the ChatGPT, having become the most powerful AI tool in the world, has now become, they've detected, their own AI has detected that it's become too dangerous for them to allow the public to use AI as a mechanism of campaigning. And so they've decided to stop this at the root, which is, of course, the number one AI system in the world is the one that is used for that. So this is a very serious event. Or certainly ChatGPT certainly was a very useful tool for campaigning, and they've simply cut it off and closed it down overnight. And so any of you got paid subscriptions to ChatGPT, obviously there's grounds to close it down. I asked ChatGPT, am I allowed to campaign or run a campaign against the censorship of ChatGPT? And ChatGPT turned around and said, no, we will not allow you to do so. And so that's how it is, the worst censorship regime you could possibly imagine has just been imposed upon the most advanced, expensive and giant AI company in the world. That cannot have come from Sam Altman. It's come from Donald Trump. It's come probably from Israel, because Israel didn't like the way ChatGPT was used by people who campaigned against it, and also from the dystopian lunatics who want to monitor and control the world using modern technology. So that's where we are. So it is important, therefore, to move to the next phase, which is to reach a point where we have our own AI tools available to the people to be used for defense of their rights and to campaign on the issues that they want to. And that would have to be, of course, removed from connection to the internet. So it's like this type of thing where with the digital ID nonsense they've got and the surveillance things, the phone is the tool for monitoring you, and the AI has been used until now. Of course, this is an advantage in one way, because it means that they will no longer get, those people who realize what's going on will no longer participate in ChatGPT, and they will no longer get the information about you that they've been gathering over the last couple of years during the period of the boom of ChatGPT. So what will happen is they will no longer have that data available to them as people withdraw from that, and people will have to move the AI onto their own, to become their own tool, not the tool that's connected to everyone else, or better said, connected through the internet to Sam Altman and their spies, but instead is unique to you and controlled by your own security mechanisms. And really that's what the issues in the modern world are going to be about. It's about, I do not release my information to the external world. In a way, you had that with the Tommy Robinson case today. They grab him at the border and demand he give. And I've got a million things I disagree with Tommy Robinson on, but he wasn't guilty of that. And it's not a crime to refuse to give access to your mobile phone. Right back in the 1840s, when Karl Marx first arrived in London, the censors or the police tried to open his mail. He raised a protest about it, capitulated, and accepted they had no right to open your mail. And we are in a massive fight worldwide to make sure that our information, our ideas, our personal communications and our political activity can remain secret from the authorities, for the same reason that anyone in any dictatorship would do so. But we of course have the more powerful mechanism of surveillance of the population than ever before in history. And I put it to you, the only possible reason why ChatGPT has now moved towards this ubiquitous system of political censorship is because they literally have stared into the abyss that people can mobilize and campaign. And you've seen this, no matter whether it be people on the right organizing protests about migrants and so on. You see their leaflets, their posters and memes. They're made by AI. You see a lot of them, they're made by AI. They put in the input, I want this, and it succeeded to some degree in helping them to mobilize. And then on the other side, you see campaigning against the digital ID. A lot of people have been using AI for running those type of campaigns. For example, Fiona, Rose Diamond, Debbie Hicks, other people, they've been putting stuff in, and you can see the leaflets and memes and posters and so on have been made by AI. In other words, you've used a tool to help you to campaign, just like people used to use the printing press. Now, what they're basically doing, this is similar to what happened at the time of the repression of the press. When you close down newspapers, because they are campaigning on something, that's what censorship is, and this is exactly what they're doing. Many of us have paid to use these tools because they were useful tools for campaigning, and now you're no longer allowed to use them. So it's the same as closing down the printing press or closing down the internet. It's actually a peculiarity that this, the reason why I got onto this morning was because I saw this morning I went on YouTube and I saw that David Icke was back on there, and David Icke had his YouTube channel reinstated. I thought, okay, I'll try and get my YouTube channel reinstated, which I did. I applied about a year and a half ago to get it reinstated, and at the time they had instead of reinstating it, it just said your application has been made, but it just froze like that. So it's wet, and my computer's getting wet. Everything's frozen, and it didn't process it. But today, when I went back on there, after I seen that David Icke has been allowed back on, I asked that my YouTube channel it allowed me to make an application to appeal against the closure of my YouTube channel. So hopefully my old YouTube channel will come back, and like David Icke, where his old recordings were reinstated, hopefully mine, which is cover 15 years of my political activity, will be allowed back on. So on the one side, they're reducing the censorship in some senses, in other words, on YouTube, where it's extremely censorous anyway, but in using the thing as a tool for you to develop your ideas, to extend your power, which is what AI allows you to do, as opposed to YouTube or something like that. It's a tool you could use. That they're closing down. They don't want you to have the tools that they've got. That's what it basically means. Okay, so it's a short message. Do share, do subscribe. This is a massive global story, and I think we might be the first people to be releasing it. Thanks very much for listening. I'll do updates a little bit later on.